Okay, let's begin. So gather round, please. Good morning. Oh yeah, niceties. Okay. I'm a bit of a lone fellow, kind of sitting in my room most of the time by myself, so excuse my lack of social skills. All right. So I thought we'd spend just a little bit of time this morning, not like yesterday morning, a long time, but just a little bit of time for you to ask questions and make comments about yesterday, because the process is going to continue for the next 12 days. So it'd be good to know how you are and what kinds of questions you're bringing to the table, so that I can shape the process a little bit for you more. And here's the mic.
The reason we use a microphone is so that when you watch the DVD, you turn off the microphone.
Say that again louder.
So it's great to hear Zoran's answer, but you don't know what he's talking about.
It's like the game show, right? What's the question?
That's a good question.
Yes.
Now, what we've been really working on, so just fast forward, his answer is completely meaningless.
Yeah.
There's no context for it.
So I will try my best to repeat the question, but sometimes I forget. So this helps a lot. And for a bit of microphone technique, ice cream. Think ice cream. Ice cream, right? It's always on. Do not turn it off. No, that's because I've got it down here. So ice cream. Okay? Can you hear that when I speak? Yeah, great. So I'll put it in the center, and that's the last I'll speak of it. It's off my table. So any questions or comments?
Yesterday, at the end when we were doing the rolling, how can I make it smoother?
Good. So how can you make your rolling smoother?
Yeah, and reversible.
Smoother and reversible. Yep, great. That's a good question. Keep practicing is the real answer. But to find out how to go about that, you have to know something about the way that muscles work. Because smoothness is a matter of muscles actually working in synergy together. And if they don't work together, one of the effects is you can get jerky movement. Okay. Another effect of jerky movement is trying to use small muscles to do big work. And so what happens is the muscle overworks really quickly, and then the muscle fibers start to switch backwards and forwards, and you get this kind of jerk. So, and when Susan's here next week, she could tell you a lot more about that kind of muscular activity. So smoothness is really about finding the timing and where to work from when. Reversibility is another thing. What's reversibility about? Reversibility is about the whole action itself. It's almost like a follow-up on your first question, really, where the smoothness grows into smoothness of, it's a timing question, yes, timing. So reversibility means it's so smooth that you can actually interrupt the whole flow of the motion at any point. You all know about the concept of reversibility? So the whole act is interruptible. Now, how do you develop that? Yeah. And it's got something then to do with knowing where you are in space, knowing where the limbs are in relationship to the torso, and quite specifically, in reference to Feldenkrais's judo knowledge, reversibility really has to do with the organization of the body masses, because each part of you has a specific mass. And Jenny probably knows a bit more about this as an engineer than I do, and it'd be good to have a conversation with her. So every part of the body has a certain mass, and when the masses are organized in such a way that everything is counterbalanced and well balanced, something becomes reversible. You can suddenly stop it. Yeah? If things are not quite balanced, then either a part is falling or a part has got too much inertia and it's all going all over the shop. So that's how you practice it. Yeah. Does that make sense? And that's not the complete answer. One thing you should know is my answers are never the complete answers, and they're not necessarily the truth. Because it's one person's perspective and one person's take on it, and you should always test these things out. Yeah, always. Yeah.
Thanks for that answer, because I've been thinking about this all the last 12 hours. And because what really struck me yesterday was this fluidity that was so easy to connect with again.
Yeah.
Since the last workshops, and nearly all the people I've come into contact with in the last 12 hours, I've just been asking them a simple thing. I just was to move there. I say, I want you to do this, or I was just sitting on the lounge with my son. I just want you to move, just not consciously, but just like this. And I just put my hand. They all, except for the children who seem to have more fluidity, all jerked. Like that. I was just checking, they all jerked. And because, immediately we can go into that lovely sort of flow. That's what I got out of yesterday. So I just took that in. But you just explained why.
Well, sort of. Yeah, so it was sort of an explanation, but there's so much more detail to it. But as something to practice to start with, yeah, just simply noticing that something is not smooth is the beginning of a practice, and then you can keep that question in mind, and that can be your question for the whole lesson. There's nothing wrong. Why do I say it like that? It's actually very useful. That's a better way to say it. It's actually very useful to set yourself one thing for a lesson that you want to improve. So you say to yourself, today I'm going to work on smoothness. And I know Zoran will say all these other things, and Julie will say these things, and Susan will say these things, but for me today it's going to be about smoothness. That's going to be my focus, and other things can be satelliting around it. And that's how you practice. You keep something in mind, a bit of mindfulness, yes? This is my object of paying attention today. This is what I'm going to attend to. And improvement comes because you're attending to it, and you're treating yourself well. Yeah. So thanks for those questions. Yes, go ahead.
Hi. I know all of yesterday was about building up on the same movement and improving it and making it continuous and keep going. I felt quite fatigued in my shoulder towards the end, and I'm thinking, should there be a break in between or something? Because my movement at the end could have been better if I wouldn't have been so fatigued in my shoulder and my neck.
Yeah, I agree. There should be a break. And you should make them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you're telling me stop, relax?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm telling you.
But yeah, I felt like towards right at the end, after the 4:30 break, I thought, oh, fantastic. And then you said, okay, now we're going for another hour. Like, I don't know if my arm can put up with this for another hour.
Now, exactly. So that is actually the right question to ask yourself. Can I put up with this? And if the answer comes back as no, then as a good learner, because that's what you're all trying to aim to be, right? Really self-sufficient, well-organized learners. As a good learner, you say, I can't do anymore. What are my options?
I didn't take a break the whole time. Like, I see other people resting
Oh, come on, you are slacking off.
I know. And I was like, if I stop this for 5 minutes, I might just lose the whole momentum of the whole thing. I don't want to stop it. That's
Okay.
me. That's just how I am.
So, once again, great question, good timing for us, because this is the beginning of a 12-day process. So one of the things that I was planning to talk about after this, but I'll talk about it now because of your question. The way these lessons are laid out, we're following the model that Feldenkrais taught in Amherst. And the way that the lessons are laid out is they take care of each other. So the design is there for you. And as you go, you'll find out more about how the pelvis and legs can get organized, and then how the trunk can get organized. So eventually, over time, everything starts to fit into place. So that part of it's kind of taken care for you. The part that you're talking about is pacing yourself, and not being overly concerned with, if I don't do this, I'll miss out on something. Yeah? You won't. So, just a quick round around the room. Any suggestions? If you can't do this anymore, what's an alternative? Stop is an alternative. To watch is an alternative. What's another? To imagine is an alternative. What else? Yep, Dan, adjust the position. Adjust the position a little bit.
I was
Yep.
thinking even if I swap my hand to the other hand, but that would...
No, that is not an alternative.
To that point yet.
Actually, it is an alternative if it's a deliberate reversal of everything.
Yeah, of everything.
Yeah.
But you still haven't built up to that point.
No. So at the moment, maybe not that one.
Can you minimize the movement?
Yes.
That's my problem.
Ah, well, that's what you have to learn. Yeah. So we're all. This is what's really nice about having a group this size. 10 is a good size. Up to 20 is great. You all have different strengths in this room. Yeah? When you start to talk with each other, if you don't know how to minimize, find someone who really knows how to minimize well and have a great conversation with them, and wow, you'll learn a lot. So it's not just this relationship, it's all of this. That's all part of the learning environment. It really is. And that's the thing that you need to learn. Yeah, that's part of the watching. Yeah. Yeah. So my suggestion is examine how intensely you wrap your arm around your head. Right. Yeah. So there's a way of wrapping your arm around your head that kind of looks like this. Can you see how I'm condensed? And there's a way, I'll do that again. Yeah. And then there's a way of wrapping your arm around your head that looks like this. Different. Ah, well, that's a good realization. That's good to know. Just there we go. Yeah. Pass the mic to Jenny, please.
But doing it softly is part of the competition. Yeah, but no,
There's a prize for the person who does it the most softly first.
That's actually a great comment, because one of the funny things that Feldenkrais says sometimes in the room, and he says some really strange things sometimes, is that, okay, the best person in the room is the last person to be able to do this. The best person in the room will be the last one to achieve this. So what's the competition? Being the last to achieve it. Taking the longest amount of time. Really? So actually knowing that is really important. And if you've realized that already, that's cool. That's something you can work at. Yeah. Another comment or another question?
Can I ask about momentum and impetus that you were talking about yesterday? Are you using that as setting up a little bit of a pathway for the nervous system to get the idea of where it's supposed to go if you can't
Yes.
do it?
Yes. So my take on let's move a little bit away from awareness and everything, and let's just go straight to motor learning, yeah? Sensory motor learning. My take on motor learning is derived from a Russian chap, not Feldenkrais, but a Russian chap called Nikolai Bernstein. And his point of view on motor learning was, it's not so much laying down one pathway that takes, through the nervous system that takes so long. What takes so long to learn a motor skill is learning all the corrections that surround that skill. Does that make sense? So it's not just laying down one wire and it takes a long time. What's the metaphor he uses? Digging a ditch. It's not like you take a long time to dig a ditch. Yeah? It's that you've created the ditch and now you're planting trees all around the ditch, which is all these corrections that you need to make. Oh, not this way, but this way. This way, but not that way. Because all those corrections define... Yeah, that's right. That's right. Maybe another metaphor that would be useful for you is if you think of wanting to draw, let's say, the picture of a cherry on a whiteboard like that. And all you have is a black pen, and the instruction is, do not draw the cherry, just fill out the whole background with black, with dots. Only dots. Think how many dots you'd have to make until you end up, or a person goes, oh, that's a cherry. That's the same thing as deriving a motor skill. All the dots represent the sensory corrections that define the skill. That's what takes a long time. And that's why, to answer your question really directly now, impetus is creating a situation where you suddenly have a certain set of experiences because you're going fast. So some experiences appear. Slow creates different sets of experiences. Yeah? Doing it with one arm wrapped around one way and then one arm wrapped around the other way but still going in the same direction, different set of experiences. So what's being offered is well-designed little variations, each one offering a different experience. So from a learning point of view, that's what's happening. You experience something different, and then you can use it.
So just on that, so are the exercises aimed at changing your perception from what you normally would do? There was something we did yesterday, I've forgotten, maybe it was the arm, but it made me think, oh, my brain said, oh, I feel neutral. I'm not preempting anything. There was something we did that made me not have the normal path I would follow. So are the exercises designed specifically to let your brain not recognise their normal?
So are the lessons, are the exercises? No. I was going to say several words. Are the lessons, are the exercises, whatever we're doing on the floor here, are they designed to create a change in perception? The answer is yes. It's not until you perceive something differently that you're able to kind of intentionally start to vary it. Until that perception. Yeah? Otherwise, you're just doing it. You don't know how it's happened. Which is a little bit sometimes what happens in FI. Someone's working with you. It doesn't reach consciousness. You feel different, but you don't know how you got there.
Because I was saying to Glenn, when we first started doing that exercise yesterday morning, I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm too stiff in the hips. And then this change in perception, I obviously forgot about that thought. Because it just threw my thought.
Okay. Well, that's a refinement of your question. If you perceive yourself as a person, in other words, if you have a self-concept of yourself as someone who's stiff, if you have a self-concept of yourself as someone who's stiff, then you will move stiff. That's part of, you could say that that's part of the family of self-image. And sometimes a lesson, both awareness through movement and functional integration, are about just removing that concept, making someone realise, not stiff. You're stiff in your mind. That's why you're stiff. Sorry, Carolyn, I missed that.
Well, sometimes I'm stiff and sometimes I'm not stiff. And,
yeah. in and out of things cognitively. Absolutely. Yeah, Glenn.
Just something Carol was saying then, I was thinking that, because I did this, well, like that one yesterday, a few weeks ago, and I couldn't do the full circle. And so yesterday, all I was concentrating on was how smoothly I could go. And if I could go slower, faster, just playing around with what we were doing, not worrying about getting up. And then when you said, and what would happen to your legs if you kept going around? And I went, oh, well, they just stop. They just, oh, no, you can actually move them. It didn't occur to me to actually move my legs. And then I was able to go the full circle.
Yeah.
Because I was just going, and stopping. It didn't occur to me to turn my legs around.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So there's a comment. So sometimes things are said or mentioned, or when you're looking, you see someone else doing something, you go, didn't think of doing that. Then's not the time to be proud. You just go, oh, let's give that a try, because it's a variation. When you're watching people, and I do encourage you to watch people, I really do. Other people can have their opinions, but watch people with a very particular point of view. How many variations can I see? And what other variations? Oh, that person's doing it like this person's doing it like that. That's different. Let's try this one. Let's try that one. Suddenly, they're offering you the variations. I'm not anymore. They're offering you the variations. Yeah? This is where a lot of inspiration comes from when teaching ATM. Yeah? You get inspired by watching people's variations. So you're not necessarily trying to copy the right way. In this case, the right way is the multivaried way. Because if we all have similar structures, which we do, we all have hip joints of varying quality, then technically speaking, if my nervous system is flexible enough, I should be able to move like Mary, I should be able to move like Jenny. Slightly different proportions, but you know, I could kind of imitate and imitate, so I could be you, or 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 I could be you. Very useful skill for FI. Because if you can imitate the person, suddenly you have a different, it's not this, I'm looking at the person, you go, suddenly you look at them and you go, oh yeah, okay, oh, more like this, alright. And you feel it in your own self. So play around with looking at people, copying a little bit this person, that person. Beautiful skill to have, beautiful skill. A couple of more and then we'll go into a lesson. If there is a couple of more. If not, we'll go right into the lesson. Wow.
Do we ever get to a point where we get it all together?
Yeah. Yeah.
5 minutes.
No, you do. You do. You do. In the same way that a pendulum swings through a particular point. It's only there for a moment. Yeah? Does that make sense? So it comes and goes. It comes and goes. Yeah, because if something's swinging backwards and forwards like this, there's only a certain point that it's there, and then it moves on. The same. You're a living human being, and you're not the same at any one point. But you can experience this. Oh, wow! There it all is. It's all there, and. But yeah, I know. How to extend the moments? That's the question. Yeah, that's it.
That's very Buddhist though, because that sets up the craving, which will then create suffering.
Exactly, but we're not going there now, but we could. But yes, exactly. So, wanting to be... No. It's a... I think over the years... nice one, Carolyn. I have a confession to make. And that is, if I had my opportunity, if there was such a thing as a Feldenkrais scholar, that's what I would like to be. A Feldenkrais scholar. a person that just looks at the material and studies it so much in depth that you're able to investigate not just the material but how it sits in relationship to other things like Buddhism, like Hasidism, like it doesn't exist. But so that's my passion. I really like that. So when you look at Feldenkrais's work, there are so many overlaps with Hasidic practice. And of course, for those of you who know anything about mystical Jewish religion, there's so many overlaps with Buddhism. You've got to remember, this guy lived at a time and in a place where cultures were really merging. Yeah? Palestine, Israel, through Europe. I mean, this was a really cosmopolitan man. He didn't live just thinking about one culture. So of course, it's going to have influences that. Did he talk about it explicitly? Not explicitly. But you know, this notion of achievement. Let go of the achievement. What are you trying to achieve? What's that going to prove to you? That's like a craving. I have to get it. I have to get it. I must get it, or else I'm no good. I must get it. Suffering right through and through. You create your own problems. Why create troubles? You've got enough already. Yeah. So these are the connections that interest me. But and for those of you who are interested in those kinds of things, please come and have a conversation with me. There's nothing I like better. Yeah. So at the moment we're focused in on these practical issues, but that is still a practical issue. Yes, you're shaking your head. You're going to annoy.
No, I have to do this. Yesterday when I was lying down, and I come like this, and he said, use your other hand if you want. And I just automatically did this, put my arm on my head.
Yeah.
I saw other people struggling, because I didn't know what I was doing that. And I thought, when I'm a practitioner and I'm taking their tune, do I open my mouth and say maybe look around, or give a suggestion or a hint of actually telling people that if you do it that way, you're going to get there rather than doing it that way or doing it that way?
You
Well,
can.
some other people struggling, because they didn't know what to do with his hand. Me automatically just went up there and chill.
Okay.
So
So
where do you step in? And I know that other practitioners.
so your question is, when do you intervene?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me answer from what we're doing in this room. I intervene less here because you're learning to be teachers, and so you need to be immersed in this process of finding out for yourself and investigating and having a lot of time. Coming back to your first question, that lesson that we did yesterday was most of the day was occupied doing one lesson over a long period of time, split up into bits. This first, and then this next, and then the whole business of going around, and then we went into a second lesson. So in a kind of a way, I'm ballooning it out a little bit. Today will be a little bit different. Direct intervention. To reduce suffering, sometimes direct intervention is really necessary. Because if you see a person really struggling and you realize it's beyond their means, in other words, they're going to do themselves harm, by all means, please intervene. Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to be careful about it. I mean, if someone's doing something that's not great.
Mike. Maybe I should say that, Mike.
Sometimes I think you've got to be careful though, because if you see someone doing something not the way you do it, but it actually works for them, because you can push that way.
Sure.
You don't have to have your arm over your head.
So this is where you have to be clever. No, not clever. Street smart. Canny. Wily. How can I give that instruction differently so that they will go over the top of their head, but I'm not giving it directly? Of course.
Yeah, you were saying, think about your pelvis, and some people, use my pelvis now, I'm using it at all, and then they do that.
Of course. So remember, you're creating a learning environment. Part of one end of the learning environment is giving the answer, but then when you realize the student just not going to get it. Now telling the person just put the hand over the elbow like that, that's giving the answer. But then there's increments away from that, That's the skill you all need to learn yourself, and you'll all find your way to do it. Knowing when intervene, don't worry, you'll have a lot of practice. Yeah? Over the next few years, you'll have a lot of practice knowing when to intervene, when not to intervene, really paying attention, close attention to a person, really attending closely to them, and going, wow, they're super frustrated. I think if they keep going, that's going to be not good for them. I need to do something. Or changing the situation, whatever. This is part of what you will learn. Yeah? So one more and we'll stop.
Yeah, just on that note, we were talking about the arms going around. I couldn't really do it at all. Like I just felt that constantly there was just this pressure. Maybe because I got a really long neck or something. I don't know. I just felt like I was just in a lot of pain, like here and kind of running down there. So eventually, I just went up here, and that kind of worked better for me. And then like at around 4:30 or ish, I couldn't even do any more. I just lay down for about 20 minutes, and then just started looking around the room what other people were doing, and then I wasn't even sure what I was doing, and then maybe 10 minutes later I tried to do the whole big movement, and then I just did it.
Yep.
But I think I needed that really big rest. Like I just needed to lie down, almost go to sleep, and then I was like, okay, good.
So that is a good comment to hear. That's where listening to what other people are doing and going, oh, worked for him, could work for me. Yeah. The fact that you adjusted your arm, great. So I'll be direct. I won't ask a question. So teacher time. So wrapping the arm around the head like this does something really specific. It doesn't let you move your neck very much. Yeah? It kind of knocks out the head neck area. And suddenly, where do you have to move from? Yeah. You have to. Otherwise, you can just do this. Knocking out this really makes you move from here. And most of you, through yesterday, got more and more movement through the middle of yourself. So arm positions are really important, what we call constraints. It allows some things to happen but not others. Or to say it a different way, a constraint promotes a certain experience coming out. Because you've designed it, the body has to move like that because you can't do anything else. So another way to say it, maybe this will help you. You could say to a person, well, keep the relationship between your ear and your left shoulder exactly the same. Imagine you're holding a pencil between. Yeah? Does the same thing. Mind you, it takes a lot more mental effort. Yeah? So you then have to be really mentally sharp to do all of that. Yeah? Doesn't let me do that anymore. So there are other ways. This is just a nice, convenient way to do it. Okay, so I said yesterday when you were talking, everybody think of a joke. Oh, I'll go first. I'll get it over and done with. And for those of you who already know me a little bit, you know I like sick jokes. So I remember this joke. It's my favourite joke because I remember exactly the circumstances that I heard it, and I remember how long I laughed. It was just amazing. So, what do you call a man with an axe? Well, that's not bad, but no. No. No, Doug. Call a man with an axe Doug. Yep, that's the look, yep. And then what do you call a man without an axe? Yay! No. So, I told you, sick jokes. I like sick jokes. So, what do you call a man with an axe? Doug, Douglas. It's a bit of a linguistic joke. But what fascinated me, I was thinking of what joke is my favourite joke. What fascinated me about that joke was how much I remembered where I was when I heard it. I was in a car, I was at the Victorian College of the Arts studying dance, and we were heading off for a performance in a car, and I was a passenger, and I had 3 of my friends around me, and one guy who's from New Zealand and an ex-surfer, he had a crazy sense of humour, and he told this joke. In the car, on St Kilda Road, 5 p.m. in the afternoon, as we were driving to the performance. And I laughed, and it was one of those laughs that I just couldn't stop, you know, just flexion, continuous flexion for about half an hour. And memory works like that. You know, so your nervous system, for those of you who have read Norman Doidge, your nervous system works like that. It tends to work at 2 ends of the extremes. Really bad events and really good events. And the nervous system just kind of lights up and locks it in. And I've never forgotten that joke. Every other joke I must have forgotten, but that joke I've never forgotten. Yeah. And it's like that in this room. If you can create that attitude in yourself where everything feels, you know, not jokey, but not so serious, then when next time you're not so serious, you remember stuff. If every lesson is serious and every lesson is like too hard, you'll only remember things mostly when it's too hard and serious. So that's why when Feldenkrais says, do the lessons with that bodily attitude where you could break into a smile at any moment. Not have a silly grin on your face, right? Oh, look at this lesson, it's a good lesson. But you could break into a smile at any moment. It's a really nice bodily state to be in. That's why each of you will tell a joke sometime this week. Because how do you generate that? Because I'm a bad joke teller, let's face it. So you have to produce the goods. I'm not that bad. I'm changing my self-perception. All right, so please get yourself ready to do an awareness to movement lesson, and we'll be continuing on from yesterday. Now, you do know that it's permissible to come further up the front. There's actually a lot of space in this room, so use it, use it. Okay, good.